it is very thoroughly important as any other aspects of health, because, 1 second. So we know when we are telling about health is a complete physical, mental, social well-being of a person also. At most, we are focusing on the physical care of our patients, and because we want to provide maximum physical comfort for our patient. But yeah, I know it is because of our busy schedules in our hospital, and it is very difficult to spend time to manage beyond the physical time, especially in OPDs and all. Uh, so, but in compare with that, when we comes into palliative care, we are focusing on all the four levels, such as the physical, psychosocial, and the spiritual aspects. And moreover, when we are looking into the definition of WHO, palliative care, which is an approach that improves the quality of life of patient and their families facing problems associated with the life-threatening illness. When we are telling about the life-threatening illness, we can also include the life-limiting conditions also, through the prevention and relief of suffering by means of early identification and impeccable assessment, and treatment of pain and other problems such as physical, psychosocial, and the spiritual one. So we can look into a scenario that a 44-year-old female, Mrs. D, she has diagnosed with juvenile diabetic mellitus. During the home visit, she was suffering from severe pain due to the ulcer of her both lower limbs, blurred vision, bleeding, and foul smell from the wounds. She looked very anxious and scared and had no idea about palliative care. She lives with her son, who is 11-year-old. Her husband left her after the diagnosis as she had lost sensations in her lower limbs. She was working as a housemaid before, and she started to losing her vision. Her activities of daily living was also very limited due to the ulcer and blurred vision. She lives in a small hut made of wooden planks attached around. And they don't even have a bathroom and no proper flooring. The patient sleeps on a tarpaulin sheet laid down on the normal ground. So this is a scenario when we are visiting a patient during our home visit. So with this, we can move into a discussion about how we can go beyond the physical aspects of care in this scenario. So you can give your suggestions and ideas either through chat box or by unmuting yourself. So what are the important areas to be assessed from the psychosocial point of view, and identify your priority interventions for this patient? I'll show you the scenario once more. Anyone?
Introduce her to the palliative care, like take care of her wounds,
Yeah.
and treat her diabetes. Hello?
Yeah, yes, yes.
And treat her diabetes. I'm Dr. Girija Ramanan. So,
Okay.
and see, once the diabetes is under control, many of this wound, and given her the proper antibiotic and treatment, we can assure her some better relief from all these problems. And try to bring her husband back if social, we can try to convince him that it is not a very serious disease. We can control her disease.
Very right.
And give her some funds to give her a better place to stay. I I don't think we can arrange for a bathroom for her, but at
Okay.
least a floor or a bed so that she can be comfortable from the funds which we can
Admit her for some time.
for some time.
Admit
Okay.
her to some hospital.
Okay.
We can admit her to a hospital for her care.
Yeah, if we admit the hospital, then the son will be in trouble.
So at the moment, we have to take care of the patient. Maybe her husband comes back if maybe her husband comes back if we take care of the patient, and then we can ask him to come back and take care of the son, and then slowly he can take care of her also as well.
Okay.
Other relatives can take care of the son.
Yeah, that is a very relevant suggestion. And Dr. Harchot Singh tells about treat wounds, then try to convince his husband, connect with NGO for funding. Then Dr. Pooja admit her to the hospital by Dr. Veena.
Yes.
She has to be admitted.
I feel that we should assess more her psychological state. We can ask her what is most important to her, and because definitely all her problems are emanating from her physical suffering, but the psychological aspect of it, feeling abandoned, her husband leaving her, and very poor, support, and then we can inquire what supportive family she has, and then work with her so that to prioritize in the sense and then work towards those goals.
Okay. Nice suggestion. But I have a doubt regarding if we are admitting this patient into hospital, and we know this is a diabetic wound. Once it's get treated, whether it will be completely manageable, or again we send her back to the this kind of situation, the recurrence of the issue will be there or not. I mean, whether this will improve her wound or her quality of the style which she is living
Teach her to dress his wound properly daily,
daily.
and health education to the patient.
Okay.
Then after curing this wound, you have to educate that son also. So mother and child also will be some bond. So they will live together.
Okay. So that was some of the wonderful suggestions. And anyway, we can move into how we can tackle all these issues one by one by the psychosocial aspects, and I mean, in the view of a psychosocial care provider. So when we are looking into the concept of total pain, you can see one circle is overlapping the other. So the total pain reported by the patient may be compounded by all these physical, social, psychological, and the spiritual factors. Then why the psychosocial care is important? So when a person who lives with a life-limiting or life-threatening condition, or the awareness of approaching that which causes unique stresses and challenges. When a person's life started to suffer with a disease condition, a day ahead may be unbearable because a serious illness may disrupt that individual's thoughts, feelings, relationships, social and the spiritual support, and the financial stability also. So how we are going to address all these kind of issues? The first one, we are doing a thoroughly assessment, and this is a basic thing. The assessment is an exploration process of gathering information about the person. In our view, the maximum kind of information is collecting from the patient. I mean, I'm telling about the initial assessment which we are doing with the patient. So gathering informations about the patient, how much information we are collecting, that much we can identify the problem, and we can set our goals and interventions depends largely on what actually we are getting. So what is our aim? Our aim is to identify the problem areas which result from illness and may influence the well-being of the patients and their families. So clearly it is saying that the problems which results from the illness. So when we are actually focusing this illness related suffering, one example I can say, if a person diagnosed with CA rectum and using a colostomy bag for years, she is a young woman. So imagine what are the other problems other than physical, what are the other problems she is suffering. Can anyone?
She will be ashamed of getting together in some society because of the colostomy bag she is carrying, and it may be false smearing sometimes. So, and she is always apprehensive about that, and that's why she doesn't want to mix up with people. There is a basic problem with that woman, and especially she is young, and that's a whole problem. And even when we tell them that this is a disease and all that, this we have to carry with that, but still it is very difficult for them to get adjusted. And even the society people, they may not, they don't accept even a small smell somewhere. The people start looking at the person in a different way. That's our society.
Yeah, okay, sir.
She may be having menstrual problem as well. Once she's a young lady, how will she manage that as well?
Okay. So she could have body shaming also, right? Body
Yeah.
shaming and sexual issues with the husband, as told, sexual issues, isolation, stigmatized from the society, and moreover, financial instability also there. So,
Yes.
as doctors, you may know about how many days a colostomy bag is using, and we don't know actually the exact cost of each colostomy bag which they are using.
Then
And you
why
are
what?
suggesting about the colostomy bag. I don't know exactly how many days you may be prescribed, but when we are administering or when we are prescribing about this, whether you are thinking about how much cost it will have, whether they can meet it or not. So the financial, I think in Kerala here around the normal range is from starting from 600 onwards. So
Yes.
these all things should be in our mind when we are here managing with the palliative care patients, and we are trying to address all these type of issues and how we can help them to buy this and to improve these kind of scenarios. So our assessment, which is an ongoing process, because the psychosocial needs of our patients and family and the caregivers often changes over the course of illness. Then how we are doing this? It is through the purposeful observations among the patient as well as the family members, then purposeful conversations with them also. If you want some more information regarding anything particularly, we have to create settings and ask if any kind of family issues or regarding the status of the patient, they are living in their home. So we are focusing there, and purposefully we are started with that kind of conversations. Then next, if we are lacking some kind of informations, we may get sources other than patient and the primary caregiver. We can contact their friends, relatives, neighbors, local bodies also. So what are the important areas to be assessed from the point of view of topography in the psychosocial aspects? These are the major things which we are evaluating. First one is the patient overview. Next is insight, family overview, socioeconomic overview, psychological overview, spiritual overview, psychosocial overview, if in need, then interventions and plan. So one by one, the patient overview in the sense we are collecting the basic demographic details, occupation before and after the illness, who is the primary caregiver, and the relationship. Next one, insight about the diagnosis, prognosis, and about palliative care. It's about the family as well as the patient, because it's already, I think, you had done with your communication session. So you understand about the importance of pollution breaking and communicating bad news with the patient, as well as important the palliative care also. There are a lot of stigma is happening or persisting in the society. Like when a palliative care team approaches a family or a patient, there is nothing can be done for that patient more. So that is why the palliative care team is there. So these kind of fear is there for the patient also. We have to get before registering or before going to start our process, understanding their diagnosis, prognosis, and the palliative care insight. Next is the family overview. This is very important because when we are looking into a patient, we are also taking care of the family members also. And here we are looking the genogram, family dynamics, who all are the support system, history of illnesses in the family. So in detailing, genogram is a representation, pictorial representation of person's family over at least 3 generations, which tells about their structure, their dynamic, their strength, and the resources. And this type of information we are collecting in that, the name, their age, their education and occupational profile, and emotional relationship also. Why we are looking into the 3 generation means we have to identify whether any kind of support system is available or not, any family history of disease conditions, as well as who is the main breadwinner of that family, who are the strength, who are the supports. So these all things we can identify with a symbol genogram representation. And it is a versatile clinical tool for family assessment. So these are the major symbols which we usually use, and it is universally using that male in a square, female as circle. So marriage we can as is seen with a single line, and separated means a single slash, and divorced, legally divorced means we are using double slash. Then like this, lot of symbols are available in Google. Adopted child means a line with the dotted lines denoting their gender, and the pregnancy woman. Is there any stillbirth, miscarriage, abortion, and the twins? When we are doing all these things, identifying these things and pictorially representing into the our case sheet, it will be very helpful for us to understand the vulnerability of that family also. Because when we are going to see that patient itself, whether is there a sufficient food is available in that family for it, because we are identifying there is a pregnant lady in that family, and there is a twins also there, another for the another sibling maybe there is a twin. So these all things like that, when we collate all these informations about the family members in a one single scenario, we can understand quickly about the overall picture of the family. Sometimes the decision maker in the family is staying away from this house. They are in their job place or somewhere. And before going to start the treatment, we have to get consent from them. Maybe they are confused or they are not that much understand about the condition, or sometimes the decision itself is making by the breadwinner of that family. It is normally happening like that. So these all things can be addressed with this genogram. As well, we can also use the emotional relationship symbols also. As you see, the playing with the normal line and the friendship with the dotted lines, that is green and thick in color. Intimacy or very close means double parallel lines. That is, otherwise we can use a thick line to show the intimacy. And you can use the arrow mark also, whether the intimacy towards that male male only having that intimacy to the woman, you can show the arrow towards that woman. So like that, we can indicate that also. And whether any hostile relationship or conflicts is happening between the family members or the violence. These all things can be represented with this genogram. So this is a genogram which I has just mentioned, like for the scenario which we already seen. So for that lady, the diabetic, that management lady, she is represented at D, and she is a patient, and her family members, her parents are not there. And for him, F means her husband, he is a mason, and his father also passed away, and the mother having some really, strained relationship with the D. Then F, her husband having another sibling, his family is represented there. And this F and D have a son who is studying in the 8th standard. He is represented as G. So only D and G are staying together. That is denoted by that close line. So this is a scenario of that family. It is as now that is a very nuclear family, we can see, and there is no any other support system, as this mother and father is all passed away. So there is no other support system. We can clearly seen from this genogram. In the same wise, we are using another one, that is echo map. Echo map in the as like a family representation. Here we are using the social structure, social helps which they are getting. That also we can represent with the echo map. And that means the family, patient's family, and the connection with the environment and the relationship with the larger society, and which is a very snapshot view of important interactions of patient family with other systems, such as groups, extended family, individuals, organizations, association. We can denote whether any ASHA workers is there, Anganawadi is near, and if they are getting any kind of governmental support through the Anganawadi, or any primary health center is there. So these kind of informations can be get easily from this echo map also. Like school, health service, extended family, friends, neighbors, workplace, local services, clubs, religious institution. So this also we can denote by the arrow, whether the family having regular visit to the temple and all. We can give this arrow mark towards religious institution, and any local services is getting, whether they are able to go to the panchayat or the panchayat authority is approaching or not. It is that kind of things can also, with that emotional symbols, here also we can denote with that symbols. So next is socio-economic overview, which is very important for the psychosocial assessment, and we are using this as a basic thing to identify the category, the socio-economic category of the patient, so that with this only we are moving to the rehabilitative process and all. Here in Kerala, we are basically taking the economic index is taking with the color of the ration card, which is providing as the basic parameters in Kerala. So with that, along with this, what are the additional requirements and basic amenities is there or not. So though these things are also considering, the social workers are assessing the socio-economic factors, whether they are getting adequate food, clothing or shelter, and who is the breadwinner, and who controls the finance, source of income, debt, social support, whether they are getting any government schemes or programs related funds, education of their children. If it is a debt, we cannot able to give a financial support, but more than that, we can give some kind of vocational rehabilitation, whether it is a goat or a chicken, or we can give a help them to build a kind of do kind of a business like petty shops. So these are things will be help them to improve their lifestyle and education of the children. Many of the children are having a threat of losing their education due to the illness of their family member. Most of them cannot able to achieve their goal, especially the professional things. And that is also when we need to identify. And breadwinner, who is the breadwinner? Maybe the patient itself was the breadwinner of that family. And after that disease, there will be nobody, and only the his wife is there to taking care of him. And only if the family having two children with this wife and this breadwinner who is suffering with the condition, who will take care of that kids, how this family will go move forward. So these things are a big question in front of them. So these all need to be addressed, and how we can intervene to improve their each one by one scenario. So socio-economic overview is very, very important in psychosocial aspects. And the other one is the psychological overview, including the distress which the family is suffering, and the emotional support. Then grief, anticipating grief related to the family's future. And maybe sometimes the patient having very difficult thinking about how his daughter's marriage will be going to do once he become a patient. Then how they are coping to the society. It's not only about the terminally ill patients, or but the coping strategy for the young men who met with accidents and they become bedbound and wheelchair bound. Then the possible psychological impact may be in the form of emotional shock, uncertainty, and hopelessness. So how they are coping with the illness and the situation with their prognosis and reaching to end of life care, how they are managing the situation, as well as family also. So these all things we need to be addressed. Then next is a spiritual assessment, which is it's a very deep topic. When spirituality is nothing but a connectiveness. It's not always your connection with the religion, their trust or God. It is about your hope. And these are the questions which we need to ask. And this is a modified version. So you can see that we are asking about the connection, who the persons or the community you are looking for support, what role they have in your care. So I found personally, when we are asking these questions, these are very simple, but definitely when we get answers, there are a lot of old memories they will share with us. And it is very important we have to maintain a good rapport with the patient, at least more than 4 weeks. It is very indeed. And this also help them to change their mood also. So these are some limited questions I have included in that. Their connection with the life situation, how it is affected to your feelings about your faith or your relationship. Next is the meaning and the joy. What has the most important in your life? What are you most thankful for? And what makes or made you happy? What do you feel the proudest in your life? So when we are asking, we can ask about what about your childhood? Who was your best friend? And did you want to go back to the childhood? What kind of things? So when we are asking about their personal things also, when about the person also, how you feel, who is your strength and who is your support, how you define you as a patient, how you define you as a person, then when we are asking these kind of question, they may develop an emotional strength in themselves, and at least for many times they usually comes out from their normal distress. And we can ask about, is there anything that you hope for in and it is a delicate question, that is there anything that feels unfinished? That is, we can ask it indirectly, because most of the time patient will say these questions never been asked by the family members. It has to be asked by the professionals. Then only we can make a connection by these persons with their family also. Some unfinished wills or their feelings may tell to us, not with the family members, not with their son. So these things can be, we can definitely get all these things. Next is the psychosocial assessment. Psychosocial assessment we usually do with persons who met with spinal cord injury, and well, we have to focus how illness impact their sexual intimacy. That is, it is a least asking topic in our country, and it is very delicate, and based on their interest or request from the partner only, we need to be address these issues. We can definitely ask I mean, for a young couple who met, one of them is met with an accident and unable to continue their psychosocial life, and we can ask these kind of sample questions to the. I just given some sample questions, but based upon the scenario and based upon the rapport between the family members only, we can do this kind of assessment. Just for the understanding only, some of that questions in that tool I have included in this. Do you understand the importance of sex in life? Do you find any changes in desire of sex in your life? Because once after the once he become paraplegic, the partner may also have some kind of frustrations or dilemma. He become a patient, how I can approach him. So how, what about their future and the family life? So these have questions and how they can move forward. Some of the things, if they requested, we can have this psychosocial assessments with them. So these are some questions. Usually they have faced some problems of bladder, bowel dysfunction, or flexure spasm, or any other problems during intercourse. Have you noticed any changes in sexual relation with your partner in life? Do you find any help in improving sexual functions with rehabilitation? Do you desire for marriage? Do you want a divorce or breaking of relationship? So either we can directly ask, or we can give, if them are literate, we can give this questionnaire to them. Once understand about if there is any communication difficulty with that patients, definitely we can ask them to write up, and based on that we can talk with the partner and resolve the issues. So this is about the assessment steps, and with this we can again move into the our previous scenario. So based upon this, I can show some of the detailed psychosocial interventions which we have found. That is Mrs. D, who is very grieved and she does not have any kind of support. She needs assistance for all her activity of daily living. She was unclear about the prognosis. She was worried about her daily living because she could not even manage at least the basic needs. She think that she could able to get back her vision after an eye surgery, but there is no one to take care of her and to provide financial support for the surgery. So this thing, I already mentioned that she is losing her vision. But while thinking about this, imagine she can be done an eye surgery, but the problem which resists her is there is no one to take care of her after that and provided financial support. At least she want to go from her hut to the hospital. So who will give that transportation expense? That her boy, he cannot able to do that. So how she will manage with that? And other thing, her relationship with the husband and his family was strained, and her parents was also passed away. So there is nobody to approach by her. Next, she was very hesitant to go out and interact with the people with her foul-smelling wound. Poor housing condition is also one of the reasons for uncared and progressing ulcer. And she lives in a very rural area. The convenience to hospital was very tough. She was worried about her son's education. He was discontinue his schooling and only look after his mother. His social interaction diminished and a lack of proper care leads suicidal ideations. She was in extreme spiritual distress. She couldn't understand why she had to suffer so much in spite of being a strong believer of God. So these are the things addressed with the patient's assessment. So possible interventions and interventions which was done like provided health education regarding the management and her prognosis from the point of psychosocial view. Sought the support of an advocate and registered the case at Childline and filed a petition at DCPU. Informed local authority and with the help of a community volunteer arranged 3-time meals at a hotel nearby to her home. Assisted her to avail a disability certificate. Sought the help of social media and inquired monthly financial assistance for her. Coordinated with the Taluk Legal Service Corporation, and they provide a ration card within a week. Applied in Panchayat to get her a shelter facility. Then meanwhile, provided a temporary home for her and expense was managed by an NGO and Talim India. Then physiatrist consultation was arranged, provided walker, wheelchair as per their advice, provided glucometer and a normal chair, a cot and a mattress, facilitated ophthalmic consultation and surgery for the eye. The healthcare team monitored her DM and regulated it before her eye surgery, continuing wound recovery and management, applied for government ration support and a disability pension, assisted her to obtain Chief Minister Relief Fund and she received the beneficial support. Psychotherapy and supportive care has been provided to son. Her son was introduced to the children's group and he took part in summer camp, provided financial support for education and provided a mentor for her son who can monitor his education progress. Next, contacted her husband and started family counseling. Later, husband decided to live with the family. Ulcer debridement was done with the help of a podiatrist. Next, provided refrigerator to store her insulin and diet, chartered food. And we consulted with a dietitian also. Provided financial help to travel from hospital to home and other needs. Planning to empower Mrs. D with a sustainable income once her ulcer get healed completely. So these are the possible interventions which was taken from the psychosocial care. So this is regarding and there are some general interventions which we usually doing is the family meeting, supportive counseling, CBT based communication, facilitating psycho-educational support group, recommendation for government schemes and other financial assistance, linking with the community resources, vocational training, and regular follow-up. And the
Ma'am, what
other
is
thing,
CBT communication?
cognitive behavioral therapy.
Sorry?
Cognitive behavioral therapy based communication.
Cohesive.
Yeah. That was done by the clinical. If we have any kind of cognitive dysfunction or having identified with very grief and all, and it is not managing by a proper regular counseling, definitely we can consult them with the clinical psychologist, so they can provide a task-based CBT communication.
Thank you.
Next is I also want to point about the dignity related issues of the patients. So we can conserve. This is a evidence-based study conducted by Dr. Harvey. It is using a lot in nowadays to take care of the patient and family members. So the inability to acknowledge personhood, the insensitivity of not acknowledging personhood can be psychologically devastating. So especially in palliative care, we have to address, and we are using ABCD of dignity conserving care. That means our attitude towards the patient and the family, our behavior, then compassion, which we are providing in our care, and the dialogues without any prejudice or prejudgment. So dignity also need to be conserved. We have to see a patient not as a patient, but as a person. And about the caregiver also, we can say that the caregiver, who is an invisible patient, which we usually sees in the family, because we know most of the time we can understand that the caregivers in the family are women, and they neglect their own disease conditions, and they won't do that much regular routine checkup and also, and they don't want to go to hospital because they want to take care of their children as well as the person who is having disease. So there are only 4 kinds of people in the world: those who have been caregivers, those who are currently caregivers, those who will be caregivers, and those who will need a caregiver. So what we have to do in our point, we have to respect those individuals, acknowledge their complex role, and never dehumanizing them by calling the bystander or a patient bed number. But we have to call when we are going beside of them. We have to represent them by their own names and identity. So so this is a question. What do I need to know about you to help you better? So we will surprised by the answers. We will get answers. Would really help to know how much about our patients, how the assessment's going on. Definitely they will give many amazing answers for us, and that help us to do much better interventions. So a lot of patients having problems related to hair loss after chemo, and as we said in using of colostomy bag, it does not just about the physical image change, but it also related to their dignity, whether it is respecting by others, or seeking help is not that much good for a person as a human. So these are the some dignity related factors which also need to be identified. And we can see a video regarding an invisible patient or a caregiver. So how we can rehabilitate them. So just for your information, I am showing a video.
Today, we see around us many bedridden patients who have lost hope for a better life. Abandoned by conventional medicine systems, they live their lives dependent on the care of their near and dear ones. Globally, 80% of this care is provided by women. Often, women caregivers neglect their own health and well-being in the care of others. Families also fall into extreme poverty because of the illness of the main income earner, the male. Dependent women are left without any means to survive. The Pallium India Trust recognized this crucial need for women caregivers to be supported. With the financial help of the Women's Wing of the Federation of Malayali Associations of America, Pallium India Trust is extending a helping hand to one of the most neglected sections in society, women caregivers. Shaila has faced misfortune upon misfortune. While her husband was stricken by cerebral vascular accident, she lost her 22-year-old son in a motorbike accident. Despite these debilitating events, Shaila faces life with unusual courage. Once again, Pallium India reached out and is supporting Shaila to rebuild her life.
പാലിയം ഇന്ത്യയിൽ അവരെല്ലാവരും ടീമംഗങ്ങൾ എല്ലാവരും എനിക്ക് ഭയങ്കര സപ്പോർട്ടീവാണ്. ശരിക്കും പറഞ്ഞാൽ ഞാൻ ഇന്ന് അങ്ങോട്ട് മുന്നോട്ട് പോണത് തന്നെ എനിക്ക് അവരെ സപ്പോർട്ടുള്ളത് കൊണ്ടാണ്. എല്ലാ രീതിയിലും എല്ലാവരും ഭയങ്കര ഇതാണ്. എല്ലാവരും എൻ്റെ അടുത്ത് പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ട്, ഏത് സമയത്ത് എന്തൊരു ഇത് വന്നാലും ഒരു കോൾ ചെയ്താൽ മതി, അപ്പം അവരെത്തുമെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ട്. അത് തന്നെയാണ് എൻ്റെ ജീവിതത്തിലെ പ്രതീക്ഷയും.
Vijay Kumar and Vijay Kumari are siblings affected by an autoimmune disease. Now, at 34 and 36 years, their only caregivers are their elderly parents. While Pallium India provides them with home care facilities, which takes care of their medical needs, their elderly mother needed an extra income to support the family. ₹30,000 was given to Jainamma. She continues caring for the children from home. Rashmi has another story to tell. Her husband, Biju, is confined to a wheelchair after a spinal injury. Rashmi set up a small garment business with which she managed to run the household. But the huge costs of the medical treatment for Biju and subsequent deaths forced her to stop the business. Through FOMA, she was given a grant of ₹30,000. With this, Rashmi was able to restart her small garment business. Loneliness and helplessness are one of the biggest challenges of old age. 60-year-old Sarojini Amma and her chronically ill 70-year-old husband are facing this problem. A small tea shop is her means of earning a livelihood. Pallium India, recognizing the need to help her with more vessels, etc., became the ray of hope in Sarojini Amma's life. We have just seen 4 stories among the many that the Pallium India Trust has affected through timely aid and care. These women devote their lives to others, but is there anyone to think of them?
So, hope you understand the condition which most of our women caregivers are suffering. And we know this kind of rehabilitation is a support factor which help them to improve their quality of life, because once they become the breadwinner, they don't know about their future and how to sustain in that family life. So these are some of the rehabilitative measures we can do. Generally, our interventions based upon the informations collection, listening with the either with the government or with other organizations or with the hospitals or with the local authorities, then regular follow-up with the patient for any kind of medical as well as the psychosocial management is being done. So next to the psycho education and facilitation, because as we told during the illness course, their needs may vary, the situations may change, so they won't able to cope up with all the situations, and they have some kind of mentoring as well as support from outside to sustain in their family, either with the socioeconomic status also. So some additional helps we can provide it with that. Then counseling supports, then rehabilitation and bereavement support. Our care is not just stopped once the patient life ended in this hospital, and we are continuing our support with the bereaved family and help them to cope up with that grief as well as come back to this normal social scenario, or coming back to the social streams to do their routine works as well as going for a job, helping all these kind of things. And it include the kind of job which they want to do in as a rehabilitative support, that also need to be considering in the bereavement as well as the bereavement counseling. We have here a helpline called Sugduk, especially in related to the COVID scenario. We have that help desk is there to provide a bereavement support counseling care. And when doing this assessments and psychosocial setups, evaluate our interventions, then assess how the patients and families benefited, assess how to be revised and updated with our current knowledge, and updating factors and the things from the government as well as from the society. Good documentation is inevitable, and wherever possible, use research validating techniques. And we know it is an art and science in psychosocial care, just as in the medicines. So these are the things which we usually covers, and this is the end. So hope you know about the Cicely Saunders. As I was, you matter because you matter to the last moment of your life, and we will do all we can not only to help you die peacefully, but also to live until you die. So this is about the session, and thank you all. So hope any clarifications or this is open for your discussion. So, sir.
Thank you, Reshma. I think we have some time to have one or two questions.
Presentation. So managing caregivers is very important.
Yeah, please explain CBT communication in detail.
CBT, actually it is a based upon the psychotherapy. As I told, it is basically different sessions doing by the clinical psychologist. And when we are extracting from that CBT based communication, we are ruling out the changes in their behavioral, their thought process, and the emotions which they are actually going with this illness related issues. So their emotions may change. They may have some false hope regarding their situations. So these kinds of things we will, the important thing is we need to address what is the exact issue which they are, emotional distress which exactly is there, and how that can be tackled. So basically that is a therapeutic interventions, and it is having a lot of sessions actually doing by the clinical psychologist, and we are extracting and roll out these specific tasks.
Yeah, thank you, Reshma. So to put it in other words, it's a form of psychotherapy, and the person learn to change their perceptions or how they see things in their life. So, for example, some people, CBT can be applied in many settings or in many disorders. Suppose the person has some dentophobia, that is, they fear to go to a dentist. This behavior might be related to something that is happened in the child. So they don't want to go. So this person can, a psychologist can help this person through CBT to make, to find out what is the reason and then change the person's perception regarding the dentophobia. That's how CBT is done. I'm not an expert in CBT, but probably psychologists do this CBT.
Sir, behavior change communication and CBT is the same or different?
Sorry?
Behavior change communication. We talk about behavior change communication.
We usually don't take it as cognitive behavioral therapy. We do a lot of communication with patients, and we might be doing something in CBT without we knowing about. So what we call is we need to do the proper communication. That's what we do. But experts like psychologists, when they do, it will be proper cognitive behavioral therapy.
Sir, in the case study, you have mentioned that there is severe pain, but there is also, you have mentioned there is loss of sensation. How can be possible this?
Which story? Which case study?
In this scenario, case study, you have mentioned severe pain and also mentioned loss of sensation. So in diabetic food, there is no pain.
Oh, okay. So this is something. Anybody want to answer this question?
I think these are two
May I?
Yes, please.
So we need to explore the other components of pain also. For example, emotional, psychosocial, spiritual component of pain also for the proper management of pain. So then only we can manage the pain. So I think.
Very right.
Okay. Anybody else want to explain it more?
It can be a phantom pain.
Okay. So this is something which many patients or caregivers usually tell us. He doesn't have a sensation, but how can he have pain? So that was one question that is usually asked. This can occur because pain and sensations are carried by different fibers. So it can occur. And one of the features of neuropathic pain is sometimes there will not be any sensation at all, and the patient can have pain. So both are carried by different fibers, different nerve fibers. And as somebody told, pain is also affected by other factors like psychological, social, financial. But I think the answer would be both pain and sensation, touch or something is carried by different nerve fibers.
Okay, sir. Okay.
I think we can move on to the patient story now. That's Lakshmi.
Yes, sir. Dr. Harjot, can I share it from my end, sir?
So can you please share the slides?
Yeah, sure, sir. I will.
Yeah, Raj Lakshmi will be sharing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, Dr. You
Dr.
can start.
Harjot Singh. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Dr. Harjot Singh, Associate Professor in the Department of Community Medicine and also the faculty for IAPC and NAPCAM courses for palliative care. I did my international fellowship in palliative care from WHO Collaborating Center from IPM Calicut. And I am usually involved in final diagnosis and treatment and preventive part of the patient, but majority of the patients, they are locally advanced or metastatic disease where the intent of the treatment is palliative or best supportive care. So I am also involved in counseling the cancer patients and their relatives. Next slide, please. Today, the patient details is patient 52 years of age, female, and diagnosis is disseminated skeletal metastasis. Next slide, please. Presenting complaint, patient presented with the chief complaint of severe low backache since last 2 months. Patient was postmenopausal female. Earlier, the patient was diagnosed a case of CA breast T3N1M0 disease, who presented to the oncology OPD with a palpable lump in her right breast 6 months duration, and she underwent the necessary treatment and was disease-free. Next slide, please. History of illness. Earlier, the patient was diagnosed with T3N1M0 disease, presented to the OPD, and initially, as per the institute policy, she was referred to the surgical oncologist, where she underwent modified radical mastectomy, and her histopathology report was infiltrating duct carcinoma with 5 out of 12 LN positive, and she was referred back to us for the adjuvant therapy, and we planned the chemotherapy, and she completed her treatment in 6 months and was on hormonal treatment and regular follow-up. And then she came back again 2 months with the severe low backache and underwent all the necessary investigations. There was no history of any weight loss, breathlessness, headache, no history of diabetes, hypertension, tuberculosis, asthma, no history of carcinoma. Next slide, please. On examination, there was no ulceration or the wound. There was a severe low backache on changing the position. So after she complained of low backache, she was investigated for metastatic workup, bone scan, and contrast enhanced CT scan with the routine investigations. And bone scan suggested of disseminated skeletal metastasis. This was a time when the things were against her and was difficult for me to disclose that her disease is back. Having experienced the cause of pain being the bone metastasis, it was difficult for her to digest that in spite taking complete treatment rigorously, why her disease is back. Next, please. Treatment and significant investigations. As I told you, she went under bone scan and contrast enhanced CT with the routine investigations. And she was started on opioids, antidepressants, and her pain was her pain was controlled for approximately 3 months. She was given the option for second-line chemotherapy, but she denied because she was unable to digest that she was again having this disease. Plus, she would belong to a very low socioeconomic group, rural background with the 3 young children. All were unmarried, and she was a single parent as per the history given by the patient. She was started on second-line hormonal therapy. With that, she was symptomatically better. Investigations, CBC, LFT, KFT, serum electrolytes to assess the patient baseline values, chest x-rays to rule out metastasis, viral markers to rule out hepatitis and HIV, bone scan to rule out any skeletal metastasis, MRI to rule out metastasis, and ECG echo to baseline cardiac status. Next slide, please. Now coming to the psychological aspects. The trauma of losing hair and side effects of chemotherapy once again. There was a strange fear in her eyes. Whenever whenever I talked to him, because there are a lot of things going in her mind. as she has already exhausted her Mukhyamantri Rahat Kosh fund, which is usually given to a cancer patients. She has already exhausted that during her first treatment. And she was also worried if something happens, who will look after her family? Both mother and daughter used to cry in the OPD. She even complained of having not able to perform the household chores and unable to go to work. A sense of insecurity and guilt prevailed. Her daughter had to leave the studies because of her illness, and she was the one patient who invariably used to visit hospital every week, accompanied by her daughter or sometimes alone. Since there was no money, she used to ask for free samples of painkillers, cough medication, and protein supplements. So there were financial constraints and not able to perform, then loss of control leading to depression, anxiety, and panic attacks. Next, please. Medications which are prescribed: Supradate OD, Pentotac OD, Tramadol, BD, Clonazepam 0.25 BD, Ibugesic 4 TDS, and protein supplements. Next, please. Main concern, a sense of insecurity and guilt prevailed as her daughter had to leave her studies and jobs because of the illness. Financial constraints, also she had exhausted all her Mukhyamantri Rahat Kosh fund, which is usually given to the cancer patients, and not able to perform her routine household chores. Lack of moral support, as she is a single parent. She was worried if something happened to her, who will look after her family? Both mother and daughter, they used to cry. Since there was no money, she has to ask for free samples, and she used to come all the way traveling 60 kilometers from her village only for free medicines. Summary: the patient noticed a lump in the right breast 8 months back, not associated with pain, and seek medical advice from our hospital in Amritsar. After diagnosis of CA breast, she proceeded with the treatment under Mukhyamantri Punjab Cancer Rahat Kosh scheme and was carcinoma free. Now she presented with a severe pain in the low backache, and she was investigated for metastatic backup bone scan and MRI spine with routine, and which suggested of disseminated skeletal metastasis. This was a time when things were against her and was difficult for me to disclose her disease is back. A matter of major concern for me was that, having explained the cause of pain being bone metastasis, was difficult to her digest, that in spite taking complete treatment, why the disease is back. She has also exhausted all her financial sections amounts, and she was worried if something happens, who will look after the family. Next, please. Discussions points. Different aspects of pain, they need to be addressed, like psychological, emotional, social, and spiritual. We usually are concerned about the pathological part only, and these parts, they are usually missed. So I usually, whenever the patient comes to us in the OPD, so I usually explore these components for proper management of pain. Then the importance of holistic approach in management of patient. To realize her sense of insecurities and guilt prevailed, and association with the NGOs. She used to be coming all the way, traveling 60 kilometers from her village to hospital only for some medicines. So what thing I have done right now, I and my team, they try to
Dr. Harju.
for transfusion and other day charges, and hospital administration was kind enough to write off her bill, and she was permitted to buy medicines from the hospital pharmacy free of cost. On several occasions, blood was also arranged for her since she had no donors. Also, when I projected my patient's helplessness before the management, they promised a job for one of her daughters in the hospital as Sevadar. So my patient's disease was stable, and her weekly visits to the hospital turned into monthly visits, and she used to get hormonal therapy free of cost, and her pain also subsided to a great extent. At this juncture, I could understand the meaning of total pain. So I could make out from her body language, she looked so confident and was assured that if something happens to her, there are people to look after her family. Her smiling face was quite palpable. Her daughter accompanied her, well dressed up and confident. Credit goes to the palliative care teaching team. And hopefully we are going to establish a palliative care unit soon in our hospital. Next, please. Next slide, please. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Hargav. So, anybody has any comments on this patient story?
Excellent job done, doctor. Because there was
Thank
a
you, sir.
financial
Thank you.
support, which is given by you and your team. What are most important? Because of what problem occurs with this type of patient is a financial support. And once they
Yes.
know that there is some financial support, their moral gets boosted up. The main concern in all these stories and other stories also, financial support remains the main. And so if you can manage with the government, Mukhyamantri, Rahat and all that, then only they become stable. Otherwise, once the financial support is lost or they are not denied, but if it's not arranged, then their moral goes down. Once the moral goes down, the health also goes down and the health of the family also goes down. So this is the main crux and you have managed it wonderfully. Congrats.
Thank you.
So right now in Amritsar, we only have one NGO, that is Can Support, which is working for the patients, and they are also giving home-based care. But now we are also working that our university, we have a university, Shri Guru Ram Das University of Health Sciences in Amritsar, and we are working to start a palliative care unit as well as home-based care unit soon. As we are having one rural health center here, where we have adopted around 11 villages. And now we are identifying the patients who need palliative care. We are collecting the data also, and soon we will be starting the home-based care
All the
services.
best to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
All the best to you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. First of all, congratulations to Dr. Sarjot. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Just want to ask you, this patient had, you told that she had features of depression. So was it treated?
Sorry, sir.
You told that this patient had depression and anxiety.
Yes,
Was it
sir.
treated?
We going to start a palliative care unit soon, but in a preventive oncology OPD clinic which we have, we usually have a counselor, psychiatrist over there also. So that part is taken care by the psychiatrist.
Okay. So for the rest of the participants, for whom there is no psychiatrist, sometimes you have to actually understand what are the features of major depression, and
So usually we have a psychiatrist or a counselor is there in psychiatry department also, and being a preventive medicine specialist, we do the we cover the counseling part also. So we manage accordingly so that the patient don't suffer, because it is a very new concept right now in especially if we talk about north of India and especially Punjab region. So nobody knew what palliative care is. After I did my fellowship in 2019 from IPM, then only I brought this concept, and Dr. Suresh and their team came to Amritsar for the first foundation course in palliative care. So then only I started creating awareness, and then only the first my target was to create awareness among healthcare providers. Then only we can involve the whole community, because right now even the healthcare providers, they don't know what palliative care is and how you can provide this. So first we have to provide health education to the healthcare professionals. Then only we can involve the community.
Yeah. That's right, Dr. Hasdev. I was not speaking about that. I was asking about the depression, and I just wanted the participants to know the importance of treating depression if it is a major depression with the medication. So I see that in your medication there is clonazepam 0.25 milligram BD, and I think
Yes,
it was given for treating anxiety.
Usually to prevent the panic attacks. So for criteria for diagnosing depression, we have scales like Hamilton Anxiety Depression Scale. So usually the doctor or the counselor who is sitting, so he has to make the diagnosis according to the scales which are there. So then only we prescribe the antidepressant drugs. So that was only prescribed to manage the panic attacks, or if the patient has some anxiety, so she can have that.
Okay. So panic attacks is panic attack comes in bouts that may occur at any time, and usually when panic attacks come, we have to use the benzodiazepines at that moment itself. So it would be better to give benzodiazepines sublingually because the action would be faster. Okay.
Okay.
So this is
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
this will help because you are giving this to control the anxiety, so that it may
Yes.
not a panic attack may not precipitate at all. That's also another point. And another
But
thing.
right now in Punjab, the benzodiazepines like alprazolam, they are usually banned, so we can't prescribe alprazolam. So this is a safest clonazepam because it has a less addictive value. So it is easily available than alprazolam. So we usually prescribe this clonazepam. That's why, sir.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Clonazepam is a good benzodiazepine which is usually used by anybody. So it's a good medication. Okay. So for panic attacks, you can give 0.25 to even up to 1 milligram. But usually
Yes.
0.25 to 0.5 milligram sublingually can be given, so that you can
Yes,
about about the panic attack. And another thing which I
Yes.
wanted to mention here is you told that the patient has guilt, probably because the daughter was unable to go to her school.
School. Yeah, she
because
has
the
some
patient.
studies. Yes.
Yeah.
Sir.
So educational support for the children is another important thing which we have to consider.
Yes, sir.
And probably when you grow with your community support, you will be able to take care of able to take care of this type of patients' children, so that their schooling will
Yes,
not
sir.
be a problem. Because if you ask any patient, the children withdrawing from school because of the illness of the parent, that would be a difficult situation or emotional situation for the parents as well. So it is important for us to consider that we should be supporting such children.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Reshma, do you want to add anything here?
Yes, sir. One more thing I want to mention about, as she is from the rural area, there are some possibilities to find out some community volunteers from that area, because she needs some social support from their own area. I'm not telling about this particular case, but when we can consider some student volunteers like that, or some professionals who are staying in a particular community. We can consider them, and we can approach them just for mentoring or giving some kind of support to these kind of families, those who are this much nuclear and isolated.
Ma'am, we are planning some activities in the rural areas also. The problem here is we don't have much of student volunteers here. And but we are trying to provide, especially all the youth leaders are there or the religious leaders. We are creating health awareness among them, so the message is gone through them to the whole community. So then we can involve more people. So we are trying that method.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sarjo.
Thank you.
So
Thank you,
I
ma'am.
think you did a great job. You and your team did a great job, and probably with community support, you will be able to do much more than what you are doing now.
Thank you.
And Regarding the sublingual medication, somebody has asked either clonazepam or lorazepam can be given. If lorazepam 0.5 to 1 milligram can be given sublingually, clonazepam 0.25 to 1 milligram, but usually 0.25 to 0.5 milligram would be enough.
Okay.
Any more comments or questions? Help you to overcome that situation. So thank you, Rashna.